Hello everyone, welcome back to the next installment in this video series for the AP Statistics exam review. Today we're moving into Unit 2 and we're going to talk a little bit about some scatter plots, some new variable names, and just some general stuff about linear regression here in this first video. These videos will most likely be a little bit shorter just because this topic is only 5 to 7% of your AP exam. And so it's not a humongous emphasis, not a guaranteed FRQ, but definitely will show up on the multiple choice and could potentially be a question one on the free response question section. So let's jump right into it and see what we got here. So the first thing we got to talk about here is what is a scatter plot? Very simple. A scatter plot is just a graph that you have an X value and a Y value that are corresponding to each other. So for example, maybe I'm plotting someone's shoe size with someone's height, or someone's height versus their 40-yard dash time, or the number of houses someone owns versus their yearly income. But the idea is that this data is paired. It's called bivariate, meaning two variables, but they relate to each other. It's not just random coordinate points. So the big thing here is we have some new variable names. You're used to, from science class, potentially independent and dependent variables. Well, here we've got some new ones. No longer is it independent and dependent or X and Y. Our new X-axis is called our explanatory variable. And your Y-axis is called the response variable. And the reason for that is that this actually comes from doing an experiment where we're hoping that that independent variable, whatever we're manipulating, will explain the response in my dependent variable. So just know this is just some new terminology. Independent now is explanatory, dependent is now response. That's it. So if I'm going to draw, a little grid here. Right, pretend that line is a straight line here. This right here is my response, and this is my explanatory. That's all. Very simple. But again, it's terminology that they'll use in the question, and so you need to make sure you know what they mean so that way we can get the question right. Now, in order to describe a scatter plot, we focus on three things here. Number one thing, we focus on strength. The second thing we focus on is form. And the last thing that we focus on is direction. For strength, you have two options. It is either strong or weak. That's it. And we will talk about what that means in a second. For form, we are either linear or we are non-linear. This is where you have to delete some of the old math that you've learned before. If something looks quadratic, you do not get credit for saying that it is quadratic. You just have to say that it is non-linear and move on. Very, very important. If something looks exponential, do not say exponential, just say non-linear. And direction, very simple, is just positive or negative. Now, strength refers to how close the points are to the trend line or the linear regression model. So the closer the points are, the stronger the relationship. And the one thing I'll say about this is that it will be incredibly obvious. You're either going to have all of these points very, very close together, or they're going to be all really spread apart. Form, I think, is very straightforward, right? If it looks like a relatively constant increase in Y per 1 unit X, we're going to call that linear. Again, if it's nonlinear, this will be incredibly obvious. It's either going to look like a straight line or there's going to be a very clear U pattern or exponential growth pattern. It's not going to be something where you have to sit and think about it a lot. And direction, I also think, is fairly self-explanatory here. Positive just means as x increases, y also tends to increase. And negative means as x increases, y tends to decrease. That's all. As you read left to right. That's the other important thing, right? This is reading left to right. Very important. Now, to take a look at an example here, right, just to show you what that description may look like. This is from 2015, and the question is just going to say, describe the relationship. Describing the relationship means to describe the scatter plot. You can do this in one sentence. We can say, there appears to be, and here's our non-deterministic language again, that's very important. A, now in this case, right, the scale on both these axes is only 2. So if I was going to draw in a rough trend line here, all of those points are very close to the line. So there appears to be a strong positive linear, as I said, very obvious here that as x increases, there is a constant increase in y. Linear association, and again, context is key, between height and arm span. And again, these here are just coming from my axes. That's all. I'm just reading the x and y axis there. But again, context is king. This answers that question. You say those 3 things and you put it in context and you're good to go. So I hope that was helpful. If you got any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.